Hello, everyone. Welcome to week number 8 in Science 200. This is our final week together, if you can believe that. But we've learned a lot. This has been a great term because there have been a lot of great topics that you have researched and that you have discussed through the discussion boards. Lots of good interactions between the classmates and me. And there have been some interesting things that y'all have uncovered, and I'm going to mention them in just 1 second. So last week, you put together your speaker's notes. I better turn off my sound on my phone. Okay, you worked on your speaker's notes for your presentation, and this week you're going to be putting together your presentation. So I'll talk about that in just a second. The first thing that I want to talk about is some of the interesting things that you've come up with in this term about the topics that you have chosen. So let's talk about them. So GMOs, genetically modified organisms. A lot of you took the approach that you wanted to examine how GMOs affect human health. And from your research, you have discovered that there literally are no studies that show that the consumption of GMOs adversely affects human health. There just are no studies that show this, and there have been plenty that have been done, including animal model studies. And we have just not seen that. So the most important thing that might come from consumption of GMOs that might adversely affect humans is allergic reactions. Well, we got all kinds of allergic reactions now, right? Gluten, dairy products, soy products, oh my goodness, I don't know, peanut allergies, etc., etc. So if some people are allergic to GMOs, I wouldn't be surprised. But the thing is with GMOs that only 1 or 2 genes have been changed in these species, and it's usually plants, these species of plants, to make them more resistant to herbicides or pesticides, give them nutrient value, etc. There's very little that has been manipulated as far as their DNA. So there's not going to be much different from a corn plant from 50 years ago and a GMO corn plant from now, except those particular traits that we have put in them. So there really are no health effects from GMOs. Electric vehicles. This has been a good one because everybody's interested in them now, because they have low carbon emissions, but they still have some, especially in the production of them and disposal of them. But for example, this term, Barbara mentioned that child labor is used to mine some of the components of batteries like cobalt in order to produce electric vehicles. And I had really never even thought about this, where the components come from that make electric vehicles. This is a very important topic if you're concerned about populations all around the world and how they're treated, especially children. So that was one thing that came up with electric vehicles. Biodiversity conservation, very important. We need to keep all the species that are needed in an ecosystem to keep that ecosystem healthy. And for example, John brought up the fact that if you fragment the habitat, this will decrease biodiversity because you need that full ecosystem and that full spread of resources in order to maintain all the species necessary. So that was a really important finding that I read about this term. Ocean acidification, lots of you chose this topic. It's a great topic about the lowering of pH of the ocean water. And many of you took the approach that ocean acidification can harm the marine life, and indeed it can. And most of you, even with that focus, focused on coral reefs. And coral reefs are terribly important ecosystems out in the ocean. Well, how does this affect us as human beings? Our food source. We have a major food source found in the ocean in shellfish and fish and other types of marine life. So that was important. And then Nina came up with the topic of bioplastics and plastic pollution. Everybody knows about plastic pollution. the huge floating beds of plastic out in the ocean, the plastic that just fills up our landfills that never degrades. Well, it's going to take it thousands of years to degrade. Eventually it will, but it's not happening at a very good rate right now. And so she talked about bioplastics, so a biodegradable form of plastic that we could use in packaging, etc., etc. So I thought that was a really good focus of that topic too. And we had lots of other good topics. I just wanted to mention a few. So this week we have discussion board posts. And with this week, you're going to talk about your audience. So what were the challenges that you faced when presenting to your particular audience? So some of you chose, for example, legislators. You want to present to legislators this particular, it's mostly environmental topics. So the first thing that you need to think about is, what does that person care about? A legislator cares about constituents because constituents vote and keep them in office. So you need to make your constituents happy in order to keep your job as a legislator. So how are you going to focus your communication of your topic? You're going to show that legislator how this particular issue negatively impacts their constituents and why they want to fix this problem so that their constituents will be happy. On the other hand, if you're presenting to a group of environmental science students in college somewhere, you're going to take a totally different approach. Instead of being so specific, you're going to show them how this particular topic affects the whole planet and what the future looks like if we continue with this particular problem. So you see how you change your focus depending on your audience. You're going to discuss that. And then your response post, what are the similarities and differences in your experience with your audience compared to your classmates? Did you have the same issues? Did you have different issues? It totally depends on your audience, that's for sure. So it'll be interesting to see what you write about in your discussion board post this week. Remember, initial post is due by Thursday night. Your 2 response posts are due by Sunday night. Then you're going to complete the exercises, the final exercises in your Sumo web text about the Deepwater Horizon oil spill and the communication of this information to the public and to tourists. Now, they took an excellent approach with this particular article. What did they do? They wrote out questions that a member of the general public would have about this oil spill. How much life has been affected, marine life has been affected by the oil spill? And so they give specific examples, they give data, they tell how much, how many dolphins were killed, etc. Is it safe to swim in the water? That was a question. I thought this was a great way to communicate to the general public because that's what you think of when you think of the oil spill. How is it going to affect me? How has it affected the environment? How costly was it? How widespread was it? All those kinds of questions. So that was awesome. Also, I want you to notice all the data that's there, all the specific examples, all the percentages. You know that this was a science-based article because of all this very specific information and all of the data. If this was an opinion piece, you would not see any of that. And so this course is has been all about scientific research and communication. And that's what we see in this article. Then you're going to put together your final presentation. So these are slides like PowerPoint, like Prezi, like Google Slides, like Canva. Okay, there's all kinds of ways to make slides. Include your speaker's notes. I would prefer for it not to be a Word document. I prefer it to be at the bottom of the slide, like I showed you last week. How you pull up that little line, you pull it up, and then you got a whole space at the bottom where you can cut and paste information from your speaker's notes. Make sure you use lots of graphics, photos, graphs, tables, diagrams, etc., etc., etc. You want to make an emotional impact on your audience. You want to grab their attention and hold it for your 5 to 7 slides that you're going to make. So make sure you include these. Don't just put all your speaker's notes on a slide for them to look at. They will be so bored. They will not care what you're talking about. Even if you have the most interesting things to say, they will not care. So make sure you have a visual impact with your slides. 5 to 7. That doesn't count the intro slide. You know, you can have one of a globe turning around or something and they say ocean acidification, whatever. And it also doesn't include the reference slide. So 5 to 7 meaty slides of, you know, your particular topic and all the information that you need to cover. Use bullet points. Don't use whole paragraphs because nobody wants to read that. I promise you, nobody does. Though I have seen plenty of that. And I have lots of writing on my slides. I do know that. But that's so that you can stop and look at what I have written on here so that you can use those. Now, why did I go backwards? I have no idea. I really went backwards. Okay, final thoughts. Move my face out of the way. There we go. Final thoughts. You've got course evaluations to do for this class. Please, please do these for me, please. Because they help me. They help me in particular. If you have any suggestions, if you want to tell me how I could do something better or something different I can do or something that I can add to the course, I would love to hear that because I want to improve my teaching and the way that I present information in the course. So course evaluations are important for that reason, but also they indicate to my team lead and to my dean how I'm doing as an instructor at SNHU. And finally, the last day to turn in any work whatsoever is Sunday, March the 2nd at 11:59 p.m. When the clock strikes midnight, we're kind of like Cinderella here, the course closes and you can't do anything about it and you're going to leave your slipper behind. So get everything turned in. If you're having any issues whatsoever and you don't think that you can finish the coursework, you need to tell me before the course ends so that we can request an incomplete. Remember last week I said you have to have completed 70% of the coursework successfully before the registrar will grant you an incomplete. And if that is not true, then I can't even submit it. I mean, I can, but I won't check that box, and so they won't allow it. So just be sure you know that. But if you're having any issues, please let me know so we can figure out something before the end of the term. If you need anything this week, this is an important week, so if you need anything whatsoever, please email me, m.sigmon@snhu.edu. I'm here for you. I'm here to help you. We'll work out whatever we can, okay? I hope that you have a wonderful week this week.